I got a little feedback going on here. All right. I think I got it together here. All right. Hang on. My light's a little dim. Hello, everyone. Hang on. All right. Make sure my speaker's off so we're getting feedback. Hey, what's going on? We're in the middle of the day, so appreciate y'all for tuning in. I know a lot of you probably watching from your trucks, pulled over, or listening from your Bluetooth as you do a repair. So I appreciate your dedication towards the industry and dedication towards keeping your pencil sharp by continuing your education. My name is Reggie Williams, your Encompass rep. And this is Encompass University edition of refrigeration season. And so our curriculum this month is based on refrigeration. So we kicked it off with HVAC. We've done lockering, we're doing seal systems. And today we're doing refrigeration with a huge bonus. We're going to kick it off with a presentation from the El Presidente himself from AirSled and doing an introduction on their products. And I'll tell you right now, if you don't have it, it's one of those things, right? So when I was a technician, I remember I started off, I didn't even have a drill. I didn't even think it was necessary, right? I was having hand tools. And then once I got a drill, I was like, oh man, I should have been had one of these things. It was so much easier. AirSled's the same way. Once you have it, you're like, man, how do I live without it? And the presentation and the soft skills it presents when you're in front of a customer is this something you want to have for your business. So can't wait to hear from Stan momentarily. Also, there's a few things. This training is brought to you by the Easy Stock app. Easy Stock is your free truck inventory management app. Go to your app store and download Easy Stock. It's free, and it allows you to keep organized and also saves you time and money by allowing you to see find your parts easily and know what parts are on your other truck, right? Or in your garage, or what Bob has on his truck. This is all brought to you by Encompass, and Encompass is your OEM parts supplier. So definitely, if you are not buying parts from Encompass, it's still not too late to save your business. If you want more information, you go to encompass.com, or you can LOYR, lean on your rep. Put lean on your rep in your Google hashtag, and my information will come up. And my information is scrolling down below there. So with that said, I'm gonna do my impression of Price is Right. This lovely AirSled. Let's bring on the man, the myth, the legend. Stan, what's up, sir?
Reggie, thank you. Usually people talk to me up a little bit more than you did, but I'll wait to next time. So thanks a lot for having me here. I know that today's training is about refrigeration, so I put together some slides that really spotlight the AirSled product for the process of servicing a refrigerator. I'm working from home today, so you may hear some kids in the background, a dog in the background, maybe some yard work being done next door. Nice. But I'll try to move through this quickly, and just Reggie, let me know when I can flip on my presentation and take folks to the slides.
Okay, yeah, and that's, again, this is just a testament to your dedication to your company and your product by being at the house and still finding time to educate us all on your product. So folks, how's this going to go? So Stan is going to go first, and then afterwards we got Brandon from TMM Academics, one of the largest training schools in the Southeast. So he's going to drop knowledge on refrigeration, and the first lesson, right, is your soft skills. When you go to that refrigerator, refrigerator has wheels, but if little Timmy has that Hot Wheels jammed underneath there, you try to pull that out, you may scratch your floor. So AirSled is going to come in real handy for you. Yeah, so Stan, go ahead and I'll leave it to you, brother.
Okay, can you confirm you can see my slides?
Yep. Here.
Okay, great. So, quick intro here, as Reggie said, Stan Konevsky, AirSlit President and CEO. And I have three objectives for the training today. The first is to put a spotlight on the benefits of using AirSlit's appliance mover when servicing fridges. I'm going to explain some of the techniques that, as the end user, you should be thinking about when you're using an AirSlit product to achieve optimal performance, and review some of the accessories that may benefit you, because people can be sometimes, familiar with the products, but not as familiar with the accessories, and the accessories can make a major difference. So this is our heavy duty appliance mover. I think Reggie had a light duty appliance mover that was rated to move 450 pounds, which in many cases is sufficient. But if you deal in markets or in appliances that are in that luxury space, then the heavy duty one tends to be preferred because of its 950-pound rating. It comes with a variable speed, so you can dial up and dial down the airflow intensity, and that can really help when you have a tight overhead situation where you can jam an appliance up into the overhead cabinetry, like in this middle image with the refrigerator. Total weight of the heavy duty appliance mover is about 31 pounds. That's the vacuum, the air beams, and the really kind of the core system. And the list price is about 800 bucks. But as you saw in the screen before, the window before, we have other models that are less expensive and can lift less weight. So Reggie started talking about this a moment ago. So even though many modern fridges have rollers, the potential for flooring damage exists, and you can easily scratch or scar a floor. The rollers are designed for forward and backward motion, but not side to side. So if you need to move a fridge in a direction because you're in a tight space and you need better access, you need to rotate it, well, you could find yourself making a risky decision. What if the floor is warped from water damage? Well, it might become a little bit more challenging to move a fridge because the waviness of the floor or other issues with the wood, especially in older homes. And many lower cost refrigerators don't have rollers, and they simply rest on leveling feet that can have sharp edges or features, which could be problematic. And then have you ever had to move a refrigerator that was fully loaded? And how easy is that, especially when you need to rotate it, turn it, and avoid spilling the contents or knocking the contents over? And here, these are real live images that you could find, either online or we've seen and shot. But scratches from leveling feet, dents, scars from rolling a refrigerator in and out of its insulation cavity, a gash in the vinyl, uneven warped flooring, which makes rollers and leveling feet very difficult to slide out and maneuver. Limited space. There's a kitchen island right here, and when you need to move that fridge side to side, that could lead to some property damage if you're not careful, especially with your line of sight obstructed. And of course, chances are you're walking into a situation with a full fridge when you're servicing it, and that becomes even more risky to try to move without an air sled. So these are some of the use cases of when an air sled system becomes a really strong complement to whatever tools you may bring to the job when you need to service a refrigerator. The thing that sometimes people may not be familiar with is our accessories, and I'm going to put some emphasis on two of them. So if you look at this image right here in the upper left, and sorry for the folks that maybe aren't participating with video, but you have a appliance. This happens to be a washing machine that is low to the ground, and its leveling feet are in a closed position. Well, that's great because that gives you just enough clearance to fit our 1/8 inch thick air beam underneath that appliance. And when you activate the air sled, it'll lift that appliance more than an inch off the ground, which is great because that is the ideal outcome. But if those leveling feet are extended for whatever reason, well, that gap from the floor to the base of the appliance, whether it's a washing machine or a fridge, it gets bigger. So that means that there is more gap, more void that the air sled isn't able to push up because it has to travel further as it expands to reach the base of that load. So there's an image there where you have our air sled air beam trying to lift a dryer with fairly open leveling feet, and that, I'm sorry, washing machine, and that washing machine is being lifted less than half an inch off the floor. The problem with that is if you're trying to maneuver that, you can easily dip in the corner and catch the floor with that leveling foot or that element of the appliance. So we always like to encourage our customers to consider that gap from the floor to the base of the appliance and either use one of our 1/2 inch or several of our 1/2 inch spacer sticks or some plywood that you may carry around, or just mash up some cardboard, anything that you can do to fill that gap in order to get that air beam as tight to the base as possible, or whatever is sitting on that air beam. The other example here, and this might be more pertinent to the folks that deal with sub-zero refrigerators, we have a spacer kit that has a series of blocks that allow you to fill a gap anywhere from 2.5 to 4 inches. And these spacers work really well with the sub-zero refrigerators, because sub-zero refrigerators have a void or a space in many cases to the left and to the right of their rollers and feet, where you can slide the air beam underneath, put the spacers on top, and then move a sub-zero refrigerator. And in this image gallery, you can see there's a 48-inch Pro that weighs about 900 pounds. Picture 1 shows what that cavity looks like next to the rollers and to the legs. Image 2 shows how a block is positioned, one in the front, one in the back. You slide them underneath. And image 3 shows you the spacer kit with the block being pushed underneath the refrigerator. Now, we have videos that show this complete end-to-end process. I just didn't want to fire up a video and maybe distract the conversation. But ultimately, these spacers are used in many cases to move luxury ranges that are up on legs, including sub-zero refrigerators, which have a very typical configuration at the chassis level to make our spacer kit compatible. So those are the 2 accessories. But now that you have an air sled system, now that you have the accessories, what are some of the techniques you should be thinking about when you're trying to move an appliance? And again, I'm using a washing machine here.
Hey, Stan, sorry to
Yep.
interrupt. I don't know if you're flipping through slides, but I don't see any slides moving. I still see the first one.
Oh, you still see the first one? Oh, that's okay. That's interesting because it says I'm sharing. Let me reshare my screen, Reggie, and I'll back up, and hopefully that'll kickstart the share again.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm back here. Reggie, can you see all this, the slides that I'm going through?
Sorry. Hang on, I can put it on there. And so it shows the what you see, the main PowerPoint and the ones on the side. Okay, there. Yeah, now I can see. Now it's expanded. Here we go.
Okay, so I'm sorry, you missed some of these slides. So let me back up here. This was the slide where I was talking about some of the scenarios where our product really helps with refrigeration servicing. And you could see those images of floors that are damaged before you start a project, or floors that can get damaged from moving a refrigerator, and how an air sled system becomes a really helpful complement to whatever approach or tools that you may be using when you're trying to remove a refrigerator from the cavity or put it back in during or after servicing. This was the slide, folks, where I was talking about the accessories on the left-hand side. And Reggie, you should see a Sub-Zero 48 Pro in the middle now. Can you confirm that? Well, I'm just going to keep.
Yeah, we see it. It's changing now.
Yeah, so this is the slide that talks about how you need to fill that gap from the base of the air, or from the base of the appliance to the air beam, and using spacers. In this case, moving a washing machine, or in this case, we have a specialty spacer kit for appliances up on legs that works really well with Sub-Zero models, Sub-Zero fridges, as well as the majority of luxury ranges that are up on legs. Again, do you need these? Not necessarily. You can DIY it with 2x4s and other products you may have, but this is purposely designed to adjust to fill a gap anywhere from 2.5 to 4 inches. So Reggie, this is the slide I was about to talk about when you let me know that the screen share wasn't broadcasting. So here are just some basic techniques when you're trying to move an appliance with an air sled system. You want to avoid pulling, pushing, and rotating from a higher leverage point, like towards your shoulders or your chest, because you're going to introduce a lean or a torque, and that's going to make that appliance dig into the floor, and you're going to stop the mobility. So we tell our customers, try to push, pull, rotate more from waist height. As you see here, you'll keep the appliance in better equilibrium or more upright, and avoid it dipping it and acting or creating a braking force, because the appliance and the air beams will dig into the floor. And then all of our systems, or at least the more powerful ones, come with a little foot brace. You can see here, you can span that foot brace across the back of the air beams, or you can even use your foot to apply a push force from the base of the load, because again, you don't really realize it, but when you're trying to push or pull, you're introducing a torque into that motion, and using your foot more from the very bottom of the load can be beneficial. And lastly, keep those air beams centered as possible, as much as possible. That'll encourage the load to stay more upright and in equilibrium. Sometimes you may have to adjust them front, back, side to side to catch the sweet spot because of some weight variation. But we encourage our customers to center the air beams under anything that they're trying to move. So the benefits, hopefully this shouldn't come as a surprise. We've been delivering these benefits since 1982, and we're not trying to be cute when we say this, that it could be more expensive not owning an air sled solution. How much is the cost to repair a damaged floor, or the impact on your liability or workman's comp insurance if there's a property damage or a lost workday, especially if you're out for more than 1 day or several days because of a back injury or some other injuries. How valuable is your reputation? You don't want to damage a customer's home and get a bad review. We reduce manpower. Sometimes you have to rely on a second person. Well, is that second person available? Do you have to reschedule or decline a job? Are you able to give your customer a better rate because you can tell them you can do the job with a one-man crew instead of a two-person crew? And our products are pretty portable. They fit into a lot of tight spaces. And are you still relying on tools and techniques that are a little bit riskier than an air sled product just because that's how you were taught, years ago by your mentor or somebody that wasn't, a customer of ours? Well, we just want to be considered an option for you, so you're not relying on techniques or tools that may not be ideal for the project. So in conclusion, guys and gals, we are always working closely with the appliance community to help understand the industry's challenges and offer innovative solutions. And yes, we are actually working on something to get laundry equipment safely out of a drain pan, which is a very dreaded activity that sometimes you have to face. Our YouTube channel, so search at AirSled, has over 100 videos demonstrating AirSled performance to educate end users, pros, DIYers, whoever. We have a variety of new products coming out literally the next couple weeks. So if you're a member of our YouTube channel, subscribe, you'll get early notification. And I'm the company president, but I'm very hands-on. This is my direct email. Anyone can contact me at any time on the weekends or the evenings. I always strive to respond to inquiries and questions from people that are curious about AirSled products. So that's it, Reggie. I'll just kind of cut it off here in case there's any questions from folks or from you, or you want me to just kind of go back and touch on anything that I may have went over too quickly.
Yeah, let's do some Q&A. Feel free to put in the chat if you have any questions for Stan about air sled. I'm trying to pull up a slide here. Yeah, very informative, very informative. So again, Stan, how long you guys have been in business?
We've been in business since 1982. Our products have been pretty much the air mover solutions. We introduced a new product in 2023, our electric scissor lift for double wall ovens as an alternative to the Harbor Freight hydraulic cart or an all dolly.
Yeah.
But today's emphasis was on refrigeration. Maybe there's another opportunity we could bring you back for a lift cart focused training.
Okay. And with air sled, what was the like? What? Who woke up one day and was like air sled? Like
I'll tell you.
moving.
I'll tell you exactly. In the 1970s, a bunch of DuPont engineers were struggling moving large industrial agriculture equipment, and they came up with this technology to move things that weighed many, many thousands of pounds in a tight space. One of the engineers had a family member that thought this was a great technology to adapt for moving smaller loads. So, though DuPont had a patent on the technology, it was licensed by this individual for the a specific purpose of creating a small device to move appliances. And that was the birth of air sled from the DuPont engineering side all the way to the early 80s when the founder created this product. And he's still around and I stay in touch with him, but he's moved on to other things in his life.
Excellent. So what's the craziest thing ever moved with an air sled? I mean, I can't I can't help but think of all the implications. I'm like, man, if you got some freeloader sleeping on your couch and you want to move them quietly, you use the air sled to lift the couch and take it outside.
We had a mass. So sometimes museums need to move massive art installations that have bizarre shapes and weight distributions and have to move over really pristine flooring through tight spaces. So we've had to deal with some of those challenges. We had a NFL team did some type of commemoration, and it required bringing in a massive piece, several thousand-pound piece of tree into their stadium, and they didn't know how to do it without damaging the field. So we came up with a solution that was able to move a massive tree from kind of the entry point where the team runs in through the tunnel over the grass field and into kind of the 50-yard line. So that I would say that's probably the most outlandish, unique challenge that we have to solve.
Wow. So if you guys want an air sled product, as you see on the screen, the light is part number AEM 1200. You can order that at encompass.com. The price you see on the screen is retail pricing. So log on to your account to see your wholesale pricing on this product. And Stan, I know, when I was at Tech, I was very familiar with the name Air Sled and the products that you use because it's probably one of the best kept secrets in the industry. Everybody knows about it, and it's like, man, this is just genius. And so I was excited to meet you for the first time. We met at ASTI, and I'm glad that we're carrying your product. It goes hand in hand with Easy Stock. Easy Stock is our free truck management inventory management app, and Truck Stock, and Easy Stock is Truck Stock. And as a servicer, especially you have a service company, and I think one of the fights we have as servicers is proving to the customer it's worth the bill, right? You walk in, you change a lid switch, because you're so good, it takes 30 minutes or whatever, and sometimes it's tough, for a customer to shell out $200-300, right? And this is where like soft skills come in. And you walk in with the air sled. When you walk in with equipment that a customer typically wouldn't have laying around, it increases your value, and it makes it easier to sell a ticket. Coming in with the air sled device, and I can name at the top of my head. I just know when I was a tech, some of these situations, right? A washer that's full of water. And if you're fortunate that the laundry room is on the side of the house and there's a door right there to the driveway, you kind of maneuver that washer at the door. You can lay the hose down, that water just goes out, and air sled will be convenient for that compared to using a dolly, right, or a hand truck, having to tilt that washer. Yeah, this is a great product, Stan. Thank you on behalf of the industry.
Okay, Reggie, thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm going to drop off now, okay?
All right, thank you. Appreciate you.
Bye-bye.
All right, folks. Man, that was a great presentation. If you missed any of it, this video will be available for replay on Encompass YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and you can look at all of our past videos. And man, we're doing all this for free. So, and this is one of those things where do business with those that take care of you, right? This is the Encompass way of reinvesting in the industry. So if you do business with a company that interested not just selling you parts, but helping your business grow. If you have any questions, you can call me. If you need an account, you can call me. You can email me. LOYR, lean on your rep, not just words, it's actions. And so, next up, let me see. As much as I want to keep that screen share up there. Hang on. Let's see if Brother B ready. Hang on. Brother B, let me know you're ready, bro. So next up, teaching on refrigeration and go ahead and add yourself to the stage, bro, when you're ready. It's part of our refrigeration series. We got Brother B from TMM Academics. I've known this brother for a long time. Does good work. Practice what he preaches, man. Not only is he has a trade school, appliance repair school, he also practices what he preaches. He's on the road. He's in the field doing the work, man, and keeping his pencil sharp. So you're not just learning from somebody who did it. You learn from somebody who's doing it. That's awesome. If you have any questions, don't forget to put it in the comment section on the side. However you're viewing this video, just to help show that, to show the algorithm, to show the platform that this is useful content. Don't forget to like and subscribe where you're viewing this video. And with that said, let's. Uh-oh, Brother B. So, man, he got a nice little setup there. So he's ready. Let's see. And again, also, don't forget to go encompass.com and scroll down to the training page. Actually, let's look at that. Hang on. So we're letting Brandon get prepared. But the training, I'm about to multitask here. If you go to the training, you go to encompass.com, scroll down and click the training tab. Share, boom, you should be able to see that. Oop. All right, so you go to encompass.com, scroll down, and you click this icon. And here, you will see the schedule. Again, a little scroll, don't forget to scroll down, and you'll see our training schedule. We've got all of May still here, so don't forget to scroll down to the relevant dates. And you'll see you can pre-register for all of our May classes. So May is refrigeration season here at Encompass University. And so you can go in here and take refrigeration classes. If you scroll over here to the left, we've got June schedule. You can go in here and click June schedule. Now, June registration is not open yet. Stay tuned. We'll be open in a few days. And you can see what's coming up for June, right? Wiring schematics. Under-the-counter ice makers. Reading wiring schematics. Whirlpool under-counter ice makers. Samsung refrigeration. Uline under-the-counter. So we got some like commercial stuff, man. So this is very versatile stuff we got coming up. Samsung dishwashers. And then we add, I definitely add to that schedule too as we get some last minute classes added. So look today, look again next week. and constantly keep your eye on that training schedule so you can be updated on what's going on. All right. Hey, bro, you ready?
You're covering a compass.
Brother B. Yeah, I can hear feedback from the video. We're going to delay.
That's what it is.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay, hold on.
It's delaying. You got excuse me. We look like the Keystone Cops here. Hey,
What about now? Can you hear me? I need you to hear for me.
I can
It's
hear him.
delaying.
He's saying yes.
Okay, a little bit of technical difficulties here, but I'm gonna try my best. Can I just get an audio check?
What?
Yeah. Thank you, Reggie. Having a little bit of, I forgot my lapel, so I'm gonna have to project my voice. But thank you everybody for being here. Most importantly, thank you for Encompass. These fine folks investing in us, technicians, taking the time out to give us the tools to succeed. I'd like to give a special shout out to my man Reggie Williams. In today's class, it's gonna be what to look for when repairing a refrigerator. Okay. Today's test subject is gonna be this Samsung hub. Okay. What we're looking at here is we're looking at a dual evaporator French door bottom mount. Okay, this is a big boy unit. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna talk about it. We're gonna just discuss refrigeration in general and refrigeration and you know how they work. So I have a syllabus here, and I'm gonna ask my cameraman to carry the camera over to my stove. Right, the whole stand. Okay. Today's lecture, we're gonna be discussing a few things. First, I would like to start with the theory. Then we're gonna get into like troubleshooting, some problems that occur, i.e. defrost failures, fan failures, compressor failure, board failures. We'll be speaking how to troubleshoot. We're then gonna go into some of the components in the box. We'll touch vaguely on the seal system if we have to tap into it. And then finally, we'll review wiring diagrams, which is over here. Please follow. We're also going to go through the wiring diagrams, and we'll just give you a kind of a breakdown on what does this look like. So without further ado, let me take you over here to the fridge, please. And let's speak about it. Okay, so when it comes to refrigerator, now you good, it has enough juice. When it comes to refrigerators in general, a couple things we want to look at, couple things we need to consider. We need to consider, number one, what the temperatures need to be. We can't know that something's broken if it's not operating the way it's intended. Well, how is it intended? Fresh food compartment, always. We want 37 degrees plus or minus 3. That's our objective up top. Okay. Down below in our freezer compartment, we want to look at 0 plus or minus 3. Okay. Now, in certain units, you'll get this third zone here called the flex zone. That will be, you can monitor that according to the items that you place into it. I know some manufacturers make it for wine bottles. Some manufacturers make it for produce, vegetation, whatever you want to do. So that's that flex. But more importantly, like I said, freezer, you want 0 plus or minus 3. Fresh food, 37 plus or minus 3. Okay, that's the target temps that this box needs to operate correctly. Next thing we need to talk about, let's get a little bit into airflow. So typical refrigerators back in the days, when this system came out, you would have a freezer fan in the freezer compartment pushing air upward into the fresh food compartment. That happens through little ducts in the refrigerator. So to paint a picture, you got this evaporator. Can you go hand me an evaporator, please? You got an evaporator down there in the freezer compartment. As refrigerant passes through that evaporator will begin to frost up. I will now show you a picture of an evaporator. This is located in the freezer compartment. What will take place is, as refrigerant starts to pass through these coils will frost. Again, there's a fan in the freezer compartment on the typical refrigeration. This one's a little unique because it's a dual cooling. So this theory doesn't apply to this box, but traditionally, freezer fan pushes air into the fresh food compartment. Okay, traditionally, for many years, that's how it works. Okay, for many years, that's how it worked. You had a freezer fan pushing air in here, and then air will come out through these ducts, these little ducts and these little ports that you see inside of this Samsung. This is your airflow, okay? Let's speak about outside of the refrigerator, okay? We're troubleshooting now. We haven't taken anything apart. We just talking like period. Outside of the box, in order for this unit to work, okay, we have to have certain temperatures. This fridge is designed to work somewhere around 55 to like 95, 100 degrees. Anything outside of that, you're affecting the seal system. It may not operate correctly. So when it comes to your ambient temperatures, you want to make sure that it's not too cold, or you want to make sure that it's not too hot. Okay, we just talking theory for now. Another thing that I want to talk about as far as theory, the box runs off of 120 volts. It's good to check that we have a working receptacle. Always verify that your receptacle is working properly. Check for 120 and check that the receptacle is properly polarized. And if you don't know how to do that, put it in the comment section. I have a voltmeter and a receptacle that I could do a quick demonstration. But let's move on. Finally, the controls. These Samsungs, LGs, most units that you see in appliance stores, in Home Depot, Lowe's, whatever, you go to their showrooms and you'll open these units, and you'll find that their lights turn on, but they're not cold. But everything else is functional. All the gizmos work, but it's not cooling. So there's something to be on the lookout when it comes to these refrigerators, and that's when they put it in what's called demo mode or showroom mode. That can be entered through this display, or in some of the older models with the older displays. You can place the unit into a showroom or a demo mode. And what that will do is, you get to the customer's house, customer says fridge ain't working, but the lights is on. Always verify that your controls is in the proper operation. Even going back to old analog refrigerators that had dials, always make sure that your controls are in the right situation. It's happened to me that the fridge just is off, and the repair is turn it on. So you always want to make sure that your controls are good. All right. Now, let's get into troubleshooting and what to do when you approach the box, step by step. Now that we know how the box, the characteristics, how it works, let's look at working on the box. Well, first thing you want to do is when you get to the unit, you want to have something to measure the temperature with. A lot of guys use infrared guns. Some guys use thermometers. Whatever instrument you use to record the temperatures, that's the first thing you want to do. That's the first thing you want to do is get your temperature. But there's a science to getting your temperature. You don't want to get there and you don't want to open the fridge and start feeling around and start, checking out. That's the wrong way to check temperatures, because what you just did was all your cool air left the box. Heat travels towards cool. So in theory, all your cold air, it's on the floor now. So it's important, if you're going to check the temperatures in the box, to get in and to get out. Get in and out. Open your doors, get your readings fast, and then close the doors. Okay? Now, let's say you got in my case, I have a no cool box. No cool. And I know that I'm not in the showroom mode. I know that I'm not in the demo mode. I verified all of that. So it's certain things that now that I know that my temperatures are off and they're not within that 37.0 window that I said, now the troubleshooting begins. Now we start looking at the components. First thing we want to listen to when we come to these units is we want to hear that we hear our fan running, right? Our evaporator fan running. But with these Samsungs and some other manufacturers, the fans won't operate when the doors open. So we have to trick the computer to think that the doors are closed and wait 7 to 12 seconds for the fans to begin working. You'll know that you accomplished this by when you do hold your door switches, then the lights turn off. Once the lights turn off and remain off, you should hear your fans operate. That's the first hearing test that I want to hear. Another test that I want to do is I want to look at my cover. I know Samsung in particular, they're notorious for icing up in these little covers here, these little ports. I want to make sure that they're free of ice, that I don't have a defrost issue going on. I want to make sure that, my ports are clear. It's not a iced up evaporator cover, okay? So that's what I'm looking at in this compartment. There's other things that I'm looking at too, like this flapper. I want to make sure that this flapper is gently warm. I want to make sure that it's closing properly. I want to make sure that my gaskets don't have any tears, any rips, or any creases. I want to make sure that my gaskets are all making a good seal and that I got a good insulation around my top cavity. After that, I'm moving on to the freezer compartment. I'm going to open up my freezer compartment. Same thing. Get my temperature fast. 1, 2, 3. And then after I get my temperature, I start my diagnosis. What I'm looking for, evaporator cover in the rear. Now I need your help, sir. Can you grab the phone off of the stand and then bring that the galaxy? Wait. Look, right here, we're gonna come down and we're gonna look at this evaporator cover. Is my cover frosted? Do I see a bunch of ice build up back? Snow, if you will. Not ice, because ice is water that has frozen. I don't want to look for ice. What I want to look for is snow. If I see my rear evaporator panel, if I see it completely full of snow, then I know I'm in trouble. I have a defrost failure. I want to listen to my evaporator fan. Is my evaporator fan operating? I want to listen to those sounds. Now, can you take a step back, sir? Another thing I want to do is same situation. I want to make sure that my door gaskets are all good. My gaskets are good. Again, these fans won't activate when the lights are on. So you may have to trick the fridge and press the door switch. Now, on certain models, they don't have door switches. They have they're called like reed switches, where you have to take a magnet and stick it to that switch. And that magnet will trigger the lights to turn off. And after 7 to 12 seconds, that's when you hear your evaporator fan kick on. So now that I've looked at this portion of the fridge and everything is operational, the next portion of the fridge that I want to do now is I want to go to the rear of the refrigerator. I want to make sure that my compressor's running. I want to make sure that my condenser fan is running. And I want to make sure that the fridge ain't got a bunch of lint back there. So I'm going to grab my drill and then I'm going to go ahead and flip the fridge around. You may have to come around here because I don't have a lot of space. Josh, I need you back here. Josh, I need you holding the phone. Just hold that it. This way, and this is your job right here the whole time. Boom. Two hand, diamond, boom. Okay. Sorry about the camera, guys. We're shooting live. A little bit of trouble issues. Okay, so I'm gonna come back here. I'm gonna take off this evaporator panel. Give me 1 second, guys. Okay, so now that I'm down here in the compressor area, couple things I want to look at is my condenser fan running. I know that because I can see it. I just slowed it down for you. But I know that my condenser fan's working. I don't see any chip blades. Sounds good. I stopped it and it had enough torque and juice to start back up. That's a good thing. Next thing I want to do, I want to check my compressor. I'm gonna go ahead and put my hand on it, right, and feel it. I should be able to keep my hand on it for a few seconds, but this compressor is really hot. So I can only keep my hand on it like 2-3 seconds and I have to pull back. It's really hot. So that's another sign. Another thing that I'm looking at here is I see these little fittings, if you will. This tells me that somebody has been back here before. This tells me that this unit has had some sealed system work done to it because typically the manufacturers don't leave these on. They cut up, they pinch them off, and they leave the system completely sealed. But by seeing this, that means that somebody changed this compressor and they did their work through this here. So that's something to consider, okay? But I still don't want to get necessarily into the seal system just yet. I want to stay on the box and I want to talk more the theory. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go back to our drawing board here and we're gonna get into a couple things. Okay. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the components in the unit. Okay, some of the components and what they do. Okay, ambient sensor, humidity. A lot of these refrigerators, they'll put a sensor in the ambient compartment, typically right by the upper hinge. If you remove the upper hinge, you'll see a little sensor up there. Uh, that's that ambient sensor. And the purpose of that ambient sensor is it's detecting the uh, outside temperature of the box and it's sending that information to the board. That ambient temperature has a big part of that condenser fan's movement and how often and how much it runs. Uh, let's move on to some other stuff here. Okay, here's your power cable. Okay, that's this guy here. Okay, here's your main board. This big square here, that's your main board, okay? Main board. You got your dispenser display. That's, where you put your cup. This is the ice and water switches. So, when you take the cup and you put it to the dispenser flaps, these are the switches that are activated. This is your lamp. You got your lights, freezer. FZ represents freezer LED. You got the switch for the mid drawer. You got a mid room sensor. You got an LED light in the mid room. Refrigerator got a light. The water sensor, the valves. Here's your valve info. Let's go on this side here a little bit. Okay. All right. So now let's get into. I don't want to talk about. All right. This is important. Then here's your defrost circuit. You got your bimetal. It's in series with your heater, which is in series with a fuse. Okay, so your heater circuit, this is a really big important circuit here. And again, that's coming off this main board. Okay. Uh your valves, the solenoids, your auger for your ice maker. You got an inverter. This is what sends
Melvin.
this is what sends voltage to your hold on, I'm sorry. I had a call come in, so I got disrupted. Can you put that on silent? Okay, again, here's our inverter. Okay, so we're getting voltage from our inverter. I'm sorry, from our main board. It's sending voltage to the inverter, which is then sending voltage to our compressor represented over here. Okay, again, main board, inverter, compressor. Okay, this is another important circuit too. So this is a circuit that I'm gonna look at now to see, make sure that all of that is working. Although my compressor's working, that's something I still want to concern myself with. Uh, valve step. These are like a three-way valve that has to do with like the seal system, which direction the refrigerant's gonna flow, if it's gonna go through your fresh food compartment, your freezer compartment, or both. Uh, here's the hub. This goes right here to the outside display. That's the big screen on the door. That's that family hub. Just some key things to look at, because this isn't a schematic class. It's more just like a what to look for, how to repair refrigerators class. But if you guys want a more in-depth schematic class, we would love to do so. But here's your hub. A couple key things to look at here. We know we're looking at DC voltage because we're seeing 12 V. Earlier, you remember me saying that this unit runs on 120 volts. So when you see 12 V, typically that it's a DC voltage. This hub is running on DC voltage, 12 volts. Okay, here's your damper. Okay, dampers is what controls airflow. Uh, the drain got a heater. The ice room got a heater. Here's your ice maker. Harness. All right, so take a step back. Oh, and then here's your freezer fan motor here. Okay. So we got that motor. Let's make sure that. Okay, here's my refrigerator fan motor. Okay. Here's my sensors for defrost, my freezer sensor, refrigerator sensor, refrigerator defrost sensor. Now you're probably saying, why do they have two defrosters? Remember, I said that this is a dual cooling zone. So you're gonna have one evaporator in one compartment, and you're gonna have another evaporator in the other compartment. So that evaporator in the freezer compartment is gonna have a defrost sensor on it. The evaporator in the fresh food, it too will have a defrost sensor on it. Refrigerator door switch, condenser fan, ice room motor fan, and that's pretty much take a step back. Let me give these guys a speech. So it's important to acclimate yourself with just the schematic because we're talking troubleshooting. So when it comes to these Samsung, Whirlpools, LGs, whatever you're working on, you're always gonna have voltage going into a unit, like the board, and out of the board it's gonna send the voltage somewhere else, i.e. a fan, i.e. a heater. So you want to get in the habit of troubleshooting from the board. So let's do a quick scenario here. Okay, so typically what you'll have is, you'll have voltage coming in from a power cable, right? Some sort of a power cable, and then you'll have like line one, and then you'll have neutral line, and then you'll have the board. Here's your board. Okay, so we'll have board. Okay, so now what happens is this board needs power because you got a fan over here, and this fan is for your freezer, right? Now I'm sure it has wires that are connected to the board, but how can that freezer turn on if this board doesn't have any voltage? Well, you need to supply the voltage from the wall. And now that the voltage from the wall is going to the board, relays on the board send the power on and off to whatever component it is going to. So on this side, you would have my input voltage, and I should have something like 120 volts AC because again, it's coming from the wall. But in this board, the voltage will rectify and turn into 12 VDC, 12 voltage direct current. Okay. And in that same board, you got all type of loads. You may have one that goes to, like I said, a bimetal. I'm sorry, I did the wrong switch for the wrong sign for bimetal. You may have something that will go to a bimetal. Let me get the actual component for bimetal. Okay, there we go. And then you'll have the element, and then you'll have the fuse, which is represented by, okay, got it. And then you'll have like a neutral of some sort. Okay, so in this case, right here, this would be like, again, my input voltage. And out of that board, we know that this element here gets 120 volts, VAC. So again, you got to know what kind of voltages you're dealing with when it comes to these appliances and the components. What components are AC, which are AC, and which are DC? You have to acclimate yourself with that. I only have an hour and a half of training, so I can't get too specific with every component, but I'm leaving some of the homework to you. So again, in this case, you have this input voltage, right? It's going through this thermostat here. If this thermostat is cold and it's below a certain temperature, it will allow the voltage to pass through. And it will allow this heater element to turn on and melt all of that ice off of the evaporator. And if this fuse is good and intact, it'll just come right back. And this is good. So again, this is output. I did this wrong. This is output. And this is like will be coming back now. So you got the board sending the voltage out and then coming back home. So you gotta familiarize yourself with all of these like like circuits here. So just a little test circuit, like say we was working on this freezer light here, right? Well, what we would do is we would come to the board and we would get CN50. And then we would come down to number 5, which goes, remember we said output voltage, and then it's coming back, okay? But we see ground, so that's telling me that that's DC. Those are DC voltages. So here's what we do. We get our voltmeter. Very simple, right? We're at the board now. We get our voltmeter, right? This don't matter what color you do them. It don't matter. So we're going to come. We're going to put it on DC. We verify that we have it on DC. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take them and insert them in 4 and 5. Boom. And that should give us 7 to 12 volts VDC. Okay? So it's important to know how to use a schematic, and it's important to know how they operate so that it can aid us when we're troubleshooting. All right. So again, going back to our itinerary here, let's go through some troubleshooting scenarios. Let's look at a defrost. Let's look at a fan failure. Let's look at the compressor, and let's look at a board. And let's see how we would troubleshoot them off on the board. Okay, so if we had a defrost failure circuit, a defrost problem, what we would do is we would come down here to the defrost circuit. Let me go ahead and show that to you. And let's blow that up. Okay, so here's what we would do, right? We got voltage coming out of the board, okay? It's gonna pass through that bimetal. It's gonna come here to that heater and go right out through that fuse, right? Then it's gonna go to neutral, right? Here's my neutral line. And there goes my defrost circuit. Okay, so I would come to the board, I would look for the neutral on this board, right? And I would measure here at the neutral spot, and I would measure here at the output voltage. I'd be checking for 120 while the fridge is in a defrost cycle, or I can unplug my leads and I can check for continuity across the entire circuit here. If this fridge has a frozen evaporator, that bimetal should be closed. That defrost heater will give me a resistance. And if this thermal fuse is closed, I'll probably get something like 14 through 20 ohms. 14 to 20 ohms in that circuit right there if everything's working good. Okay? Now, can you take a step back? Now, this is the electrical part of it. This is me at the board. I haven't taken the cover off yet. I haven't done any real hardcore disassembly. I just got to a unit and I saw that the evaporator cover was full of frost. That tells me that I have a defrost failure of some sort. So my approach is, like I said, I'm going to make sure that I go to that fridge. And that fridge has a test mode. And in that test mode, you could turn on defrost mode. And once that fridge, you put it into defrost mode, this board will send output voltage to that heater. That's when I want to come at this board and I want to check that the board is sending the 120 volts of voltage. At that point, I could rule my board out as a culprit for now. And I'm gonna focus my attention now on this circuit, represented by the red and the blue. I'm gonna look at that circuit. Like I said, let me erase some of this stuff. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put my voltmeter lead here at number 5, and wherever the neutral is. Okay, so here's my. Okay, so here's my. Looks like my neutrals here, and here's my L1. Let me show you a key function with this here. Notice that there's a little caveat to that wire there. It kind of does like a loop over it. So that means that it doesn't make contact with that wire. Unlike this one that you see the little dot. When you see that little dot, that's a splice. That means that the same voltage that is traveling down this way is also traveling this way. Okay? So pay attention in your schematics when you see that little dot right here. Okay, this is an important dot. Okay, so right here I know that I got 120 coming in, right? It's going over that neutral line to that board. So that's how the board is getting the input voltage. I told you guys input output. So now here's the output. It's going to send it now to our. It's going to send it now to who's it going to send the voltage to? Defrost heater, right? That's where I need that voltage at. So now here's what's going to happen. The board's going to say, okay, you want it to go into defrost? I'm going to shoot it through this bimetal. And again, we said, put the camera on me. If the bimetal is closed, meaning that the voltage or the current could pass through it, that means that that's a good thing. If it's open and it's frozen or it's cold, we may have a bad bimetal. We have to test it for continuity. But for now, let's just assume that it's working. The voltage will pass through the bimetal. It will enter into the, it will flow through the heater. And like I said, it will go through that thermal fuse. And then it will come back out to the neutral here. Here's my neutral side. Right out that sky blue. Okay. So from here to that red, I should get 120 volts. Okay. That's my heater circuit right there. All right. Let's look at another circuit. Fan failure. Okay. Fan failure. Let's look at a fan failure circuit real quick. All right. Let's get this job. Let's go. Freezer fan motor. All right. So what we're gonna do now? Let me get the area I want to highlight. Okay. Boy, I wish I could zoom this in a little. Let me see something, guys. If I can zoom this. Control and scroll. Bear with me, guys.
Scroll upwards with the wheel.
Okay, perfect. Beautiful. You the man.
Press control, you can drag it.
Now that's fine. So now let's look at our who we're gonna look at here, right? We're looking at this guy here. Freezer fan motor, right? Okay. So is this AC or DC? What did I say that was gonna give it away? When you see that, then you know you're dealing with DC. Okay. So now let's look at it and let's see what's going on. So here, what you're gonna do is you're gonna come here and you're gonna put your lead. You're gonna look for this connector right here on the board, CN31. Once you find that, CN31, what you're gonna do is come down to pin 7. Okay, right here, number 7. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna put our voltmeter on DC and we're gonna stick one lead in here. Your voltage is gonna be supplied, and then how's it coming back? How's it getting back home? Okay. Now, you probably see this third wire and you're like, well, what's that wire for there? Oftentimes, this is a communication wire. This wire will talk to the board. Let's give it a different color. Joshua, what's your favorite color?
Purple.
Purple's a wrong. We'll go here and we'll go to purple. Let's do like this. That's my communication wire. Okay, take a step back. What am I communicating? Well, why does this fan communicate? Well, Samsung fans are very unique in the fact that the way they operate is like this. The board will supply voltage to the fan, right? And if the fan, under normal circumstances, doesn't have any obstruction, it's not iced up, everything is good, there's nothing impeding the blade from rotating, typically it turns right on in about 7 to 12 seconds when the doors are closed. But if that purple wire detects frost or an impedance, something preventing it from rotating, what will happen is it will send a signal back to the board and say, let's stop sending voltage. Don't send any more voltage. And it will wait about 10 seconds. And then it will try to do that again. It will try to send the voltage again. After it does that and it realizes after a few attempts of sending in voltage that the blade isn't spinning, it's gonna give an error code. It's gonna give a fan error code. A lot of times customers will call you and say, hey, I have a Samsung, it's giving me a freezer fan error. I looked it up on Google, blah, 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 blah. They think that the fan motor is bad and that's why the fridge isn't working. But I've seen where it's because the defrost gets so caked up in the back that it actually chokes the fan out from spinning. And then what happens is it won't. That purple wire, that feedback will send a signal back to the board and say, hey, we have a problem. So it's not necessarily the fan's fault, it's the defrost that caused the error. Okay, so again, that's our fan failure circuit. Okay, so what are we running through already? We did defrost, right? We spoke about that. All right, let's take that off. Okay, we talked about fan failure, right? We take that off. Now let's talk compressor and we'll wrap up with board. Okay, let's look at that compressor circuit. Okay, what's going on there? Okay, control shift. Now let's go. Hold on, guys. Oh, here we go. Okay. Then control. Yep. Okay, so again, couple things we need to look at. Okay, we know that over here. Here's our board, right? Here's our board. This big, thick line, okay? Now, out of that board, we need to focus our attention on this connector here, CN10, okay? Now, we got a couple things going on. What we got going on here is this board is sending voltage to this inverter. through these wires here. It's sending voltage to this inverter. Okay? This inverter also is communicating with this board. There's communication going on. There's all type of stuff happening in here. But right here, it's getting neutral. It's getting L1 and neutral. It's getting L1. And it's getting neutral. And that's taking place at CN101. So an important characteristic when it comes to that inverter, this inverter is getting 120 and it's getting DC too. Okay? So now it's sending my voltage to the compressor through these wires here. This compressor will have 3 pins. You should get the same continuity from here to here to here to here. It'll probably be something like 8 or 16. They all vary. But then you'll get the same resistance here. So you'll get the same resistance across all 3 pins. Okay? You don't get a no start compressor. Your problem's gonna be that the board not sending voltage to the inverter or via DC, or the inverter's bad outright, or these pins on this compressor is bad, or the board is not sending the voltage to the inverter. So in this circuit here, we got 3 people we need to focus on. Number 1 is we need to focus on the inverter. We said it's gonna send out, let's say 4 to 8 volts VDC. It's gonna output 4 to 8 volts VDC. Another component we need to look at is the board and the compressor. We can check the compressor for the windings. Compressor windings should all be equal. Okay. Board, we want to make sure we're getting the same output voltage, 4 to 7 volts coming out of the board. So again, we got these 3 components here. When it comes to a no start compressor, here's what we want to look at: inverter, board, compressor. I mean, obviously your wires can snap and break, and if you feel like that's your problem, that's an easy solution too. If you want to check your wire harness, that's very simple. Very simple test to do here. So we have a question that our wire harness is bad. That's easy. We want to put our voltmeter on ohms, and we want to put our red one here, and we want to put our black one here, and we want to put our voltmeter on ohm or diode or continuity. The beep, that means our wire's good. We could check every wire just to make sure that our wires have all good continuity. All these wires, they all have good continuity. All right. All right, finally, let's take this off. Man, I've been talking a lot. I want to take this moment now and see if anybody has any questions. Because I'm giving a lot of game and I'm just flying through it, and I don't know if anybody has any questions. I can't see none.
Someone said that you did a compressor in 45 minutes.
Okay, but did they ask any questions about this? No? Okay. Yeah. We're all good though, whoever's in attendance? All right. Let's move on to our next troubleshooting. Okay. Our board. Okay, our board. How can we troubleshoot our board? Okay, well that's easy. Here's how we troubleshoot our board. Okay. we know that our board is supposed to, we know that these Samsungs allow you to, hold on. Fast track PDF. 1 second, let me pull out my files here. Okay, so we know that we have some tests here that these Samsungs allow us to do. This test isn't particularly to the unit that we're working on, but due to the fact that it's the hub, it's a little bit more complicated for me to put it in forced defrost. And for time's sake, I would rather you guys learn on this simple situation here. So let's take a look at this and let's see what we're looking at. Okay, we spoke earlier, right? We said we want to put the fridge into defrost mode. Well, how the hell do you do that? Well, that's simple. Okay. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna put the fridge into a forced freeze, right? Once we push the forced freeze, we're gonna advance. This is the first one, the forced freeze, represented by FF1. That's checking the compressor and the fans and so forth. And it's running at max speed. That's FF1. We could go to FF2, that's a mid speed. Fans is running mid speed. Number 3, that's low speed. But if we go to the fourth option, which is FD, represented by freezer defrost, if we do that, or fridge defrost, what will happen is that the board will go ahead and send that 120 volts that we spoke about earlier. Remember earlier when we were discussing, sorry guys. When we were discussing over here earlier, when we were discussing the heater mode, that's when you have the fridge in forced defrost, this is when you want to come to the board and do those tests. At that point, when the fridge is in forced defrost, that's when you want to go ahead and take those live tests and make sure that the board is sending the output voltage. But in the case of our compressor, you want to make sure that it's on the FF1, and you want to make sure that the board is sending the right output voltage to the inverter, and then the inverter is sending the right output voltage to the compressor. So again, you got one board speaking to another board, then speaking to the compressor. Okay, you wrap your head around that, guys, you'll make a lot of money. Trust me. Okay, let's go to now. Let's speak briefly about the seal system, and we'll wrap up there. Okay. Now, let's go over here. Remember earlier I told you guys, make sure you got the comments. They're sponsoring tonight's event. We want to get these farm folks their flowers. So again, remember guys, you want to get in here, you want to listen for the fans. Check frost patterns. Make sure everything is good. But now that you did all that, right? We checked every possible thing. We got to get into the seal system now. Got to get into the seal system. But I always tell guys, before you get into the sealed system, take the covers off. Get in here, remove the evaporator cover, take the cover off, and inspect the coil. The coil should look like this, were frosted, okay, with frost on it, not completely caked up in frost, just a light frost pattern. Like if I took it and I just dumped it in a bucket of snow and I went and I pulled it out. That's a typical nice. Uh, we want to make sure that the pattern of the frost is completely from the top to the bottom. If we see ice fall in one corner, but it's nowhere else is frosted up, that's bad. This is right now a dry evaporator coil. If you get to your fridge and your fridge has a dry evaporator coil, that's bad. So you want to make sure that your evaporator coils have frost on them, and more importantly, that it's a full frost pattern. It's not partial, like halfway or maybe one or two rows got frost, full frost pattern. If we don't see that, if the fans are working, our compressor is working, all of our components is working, if everything is working, and we checked our coil patterns, the next thing now is we got to actually get our manifold gauges, and we got to get back here and we got to look at the compressor. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to come here to our compressor, right? And we're going to check our pressures. Okay? This is getting into the seal system aspect, but let's look at what we got. Okay, so here's our gauge. We're going to put our blue line to it. This is backwards. And now pay attention what happens to our gauge. Whoa! Did you see how it went right into that green? That means something. Okay? Now, this is the final portion of the class. This is where, if Reggie wants or you guys want a part, we will have to get now delving into the seal system and the troubleshooting and knowing what to do when we see this. But just for future purposes, guys, if you ever tap into a fridge, the compressor is running, the gauge should be at 0. Okay? When you unplug it and the unit's still connected, you'll see the gauge rise. It'll take a few minutes, but it'll rise and it'll settle somewhere up in here. But when you turn it on and you see that it starts to travel into the green area, that means that it's in the vacuum. Okay, it's inches mercury. So this is indication that we have a leak. We have a freon leak when it comes to this fridge. Okay, now to get out of this bond, we can add a little freon and we can see how this unit will begin to cool and operate. So bear with me as I grab a little freon. You don't have to move, you go right there. Okay, so on the typical circumstances, I would weigh in refrigerant. You never just want to throw refrigerant into a fridge without weighing it in. But in this case, this fridge has Freon already. So if I weigh it in, I may weigh in too much. So I'm just gonna add a little and see how the unit is affected by Freon when I add it. Okay. So now with all of my connections tight, this is a hermetic seal. on. Okay, I'm back. All right, sorry about that. So now, as we go ahead and we look at our, make sure you don't touch those sidebars because they control the menu. Okay, now what we're gonna do is with the unit upside down, everything nice and tight, we're gonna open up our low side gauge and just throttle a little bit of Freon in there. Well, let me purge this real quick. Okay, ready? There we go. Okay, I gave it a little bit. Now, if you notice, before it was at 20 inches mercury. But now that I added a little bit, I'm going to add a little bit more and see how it reacts. What I want to see is it go from green to 0, which is the design pressures. And you can see that the PSI is now at about 15 or 11. So it's starting to rise. So that means that it's receiving the Freon. And now, it went back into 20, but let's give it a few seconds and see how it reacts. Let's give it a few seconds. All right, there you go. There you go. So as you see now, it's starting to get to its normal intended pressure of about 0, but we're still not quite there yet. So we may have to give it a little bit more freedom. But you see how that is jumping up and down? Yeah, we definitely have a sealed system issue here. Okay. But then it went back to 20. So we may even be dealing with a restriction. One way to tell, and then this is where I'll end the class without getting too much into sealed system, is we're going to do what's called the stabilization. We're going to unplug the unit. And when we unplug the unit, it should go back up to this area, 60, 70 PSI. And it should do that relatively without any problems. So I'm going to unplug it now and see how long the needle takes to move. Okay, so I just unplugged it, and notice how it's beginning to equalize now. Yep, it's beginning to equalize. That's a good equalization rate. There you go. And like I said, that will settle around here somewhere. It should. And then, I'd have to go in now and see how the hot side is doing through the red line and monitor that. But I think now is a good, if you got this far in the unit, then man, you're a professional. But this is just the basics that were covered. You can just zoom in on me now. We'll end it here. It's about 4:30 anyway. So, in a nutshell, guys, harp on your theory. I gave you a lot of stuff to consider. I probably said some components that you didn't even know what they are. Do your research, look them up. We spoke about, wiring diagrams, brush up on that. We spoke briefly on seal system work. So I gave you a lot of things to look at. And, you don't want to get to the customer's house and just touch things and, be on the phone trying to speak to your buddy and, hey, what do you do now? What's this? If you go through that approach and you check all that I checked, more than likely you're going to find your problem. And the customer will have confidence because they'll see the way you're moving. They see the way you're methodically approaching your diagnosis. So, they'll feel confident in having you in their home. And then, if you need help, well, then, you can call somebody. But, guys, that's all I have for today's class, an intro. If you appreciated this and you want more, please talk to Reggie and he'll have me back on here. And if you have any other subject matters, let me know.
Bro, good class, man.
Don't forget, lean
on
on your
your
rep.
rep. I don't know if he sees me.
That's all I got, Reg.
Appreciate you, bro. Man, good stuff. Excellent class. dropping knowledge, man. Thank you for taking your time to do your part to help elevate the industry. But
Can I say one more thing before I get out? Guys, please follow me on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel. It's called TMM Appliance Network. There I have like 400 or 500 videos on this kind of repairs, these kind of seminars. Also, if you want to, I'm currently in my training center. So if you want hands-on training and you want more deeper explanations of this and you want to deep dive, we have a 5-day course coming out June 3rd through the 7th. And then we have an advanced weekend one in July. Go on over to tmmacademics.com and in the promo code put TMM01 and you save 10% on all of our hands-on products. And we accept financing as well. Thank you, Reggie.
yeah, bro, let me give them an example. So when I was a teenager, man, I worked in this car wash, right? And we used to hand wax cars with a little orbital buffer, you know. And they had a wax, so you go through the car wash, they had this wax called a maintainer, and they spray wax in your car. Well, sometimes people didn't know the difference. So like, well, you know, the wax you get in the wash is a maintainer. The actual 1 hour buffering is something you should do every 3 months. So I want to compare that to the training. Like, so what you got now is this is just the spray, or this is the main maintenance, this virtual training. But you definitely want to, you know, go to a full class, hands-on, you know, be physically present and sit down and invest days into learning this craft. And TMM Academics provides that for you. So definitely, I mean, tell them how to reach you again, bro.
www.tmmacademics.com.
Yep. So go there, YouTube, TMM Academics. Just remember their name, throw it in the internet, it'll pop up. So, bro, again, thank you, man. Appreciate you coming on. And for everyone watching, don't forget to go to encompass.com, scroll down and click the training tab for our next virtual training. We have 1 to 2 every single week, free of charge, our way of investing back into the industry. And as a sign of your appreciation, do business with one of the nation's largest OEM part suppliers, Encompass. If you have any questions from there, you know what to do. LOYR. Lean on your rep. Now, y'all get off social media and go fix something. We'll see y'all next training.